Alrighty, so it is week 4 in CIT 28, and we have a new thing we're doing this week, which is our first problem set. And problem sets are from CS50. Unlike the code-alongs, you actually be given a problem, a word problem, and then you will write the query to accomplish or to solve or to output the result of what is being asked for. And so this is very different than what we've done before where we're coding along. So now we're taking what we've learned and we're seeing how well we can translate it. So in this process, we also need for our course to add our next workflow, and we'll cover that in a minute. But before I get there, I want to just thank everyone for your feedback. It was very helpful. And I want to say, if you didn't see this on Discord, I'm going to be implementing this week into this course Justin's feedback to where at the end, actually I'll just cover that when we get to the review for this week, but I'm just telling you your feedback is helpful, and it is, I'm going to probably stop asking for it, although I very much want it. So if you have feedback, you could also submit it after you've done your reviews in the comments. You could go back and put that or reach out to me. Okay, so I just appreciate that. So now here in week 4, right, we're going to kind of what we did last week. In a sense, we're reviewing still, getting our hands used to, getting our muscle memory used to doing the setup and the, proof of work and the get workflows. And so this week I've given you a link here and I already have it up. And so before I go there, just let me tell you what you're going to do. You're going to attempt this. Now, what this isn't like last week I had put all the instructions in the Canvas, but I decided, you know what, it really makes more sense to put it where I normally put instructions. So I've given you a link and it's called attendance, but it is a markdown file. So here's what I want you to do, and I'll give you a couple of just there may be some wording things in here, just I want to point out to help you, right? But attempt, right? So first attempt this. See if you can go through it and do it, right? And then like before, right? And I give you some commits to do along the way, right? So like before, do your, give it a shot, because really what we're learning, it's kind of like I'm giving you, hey, try this out. Now, here's how you do it, the video from me. And then that gives you the ability to see, where maybe you needed to kind of connect some dots that weren't there. Okay. Now, one thing I will say, and I'll probably talk more about this in the video for our first part of the problem set, is that CS50 provides what's called the AI duck, and it's actually really good. I've used the AI stuff you have seen from this semester, prior semester, to do something differently, but I think CS50 does a much better job, right? So I'll just show you where this is at. Again, you'll see me talk about this more in the solution and again before we attempt the problem set. But over on CS50's site, if you haven't been there, there's the AI duck right here. And so what you have to do here is actually allow it to have access. And I've already done this for mine, and I reached out to them. But this is a place you can ask questions, and you're going to see me say, hey, try to get these queries done, but if you get stuck, it's okay to ask the duck. What happens though is the duck has these little hearts, and it'll actually kind of stop you from asking so many questions and kind of give you a moment to think about it, give you a moment to try it. But again, just authorize that if you want to use the duck, okay? Okay, but coming back here, so let's actually just look at this. And I've shown you the grading here, right? So 40 points for working through the challenge and having all the commits, the queries, the proof of work, and the POE, that's what it's called, is proof of effort file. The proof of effort workflow, okay? And again, this is what we're about to learn. So 40 points from your experience of the code challenge and the new POE workflow, and then 20 points from at least one reply. And I'm going to ask this. I'm actually not doing 2 this time, but really attempt to apply to somebody who doesn't have one, Okay, so I'm not gonna actually here. It's here. I already have my code space open, but in this case, we're setting up a new folder, right? And so we're setting up a folder PS0. You'll do that, and then inside of there, and that's important. So first, and I talk about where this is going to live as far as in the organization. So make sure you have this, okay? And so you'll have PS0 for problem set 0, and then you'll have cyber chase. And then in the terminal, like we did for long list, but the key is make sure it's in that cyber chase directory. And cyber chase is a PBS show. I actually give a link to it here. Definitely spend a little time looking at that. You'll benefit from that. I'll talk about that when we move into the problem set. Okay. So now create a file to store the queries. Here's the name of it, right? Copy the one from before and then change. And I go through and tell you what to change here. And then create your README file. And you'll see me starting to say this, like using heading 1 markdown, right? So when I say heading 1, what do I mean? Well, over here, right, this is a heading 1. And so this would be a heading 2, okay? And then commit, setup, done. And so now we get into learning the proof of work, right? And I start talking about actually GitHub kind of numbers things not the way I do them. Okay. Start your terminals. Nothing new here except make sure you're in that cyber chase directory before you start them. And when I say database reference here, that means whatever the name of the database is. So in this case, we're changing names, right? So now we have a new name for our database, right? And again, check out this link to understand maybe some details about the table name would be also important, right? Right, so then it talks about in your README file. So once you start your sessions, this is stuff we've done before, except now we're in a new folder, right? And then put a heading 2, I just showed that. And now here's something we haven't done before. And so after this heading, and you'll have 2 queries you'll do for this, right? So and I'm just going to show you what this looks like, right? So you do backticks, 1, 2, 3, enter, empty line, 1, 2, 3. And then between here, then you'll end up, because here's the deal, we're doing what's called the proof of effort. And so in here, right, when you're in the terminal, now I'm not in that directory, but you're attempting to solve the queries, right? What I want, and this is what I put in the instruction, right? You're going to first write, here's your first query, right? Tells you what the successful output would be. And then between your backticks, right? So between these backticks where you now have a blank line, right? You will have, and you should have multiple lines that you've done copied from your terminal. Okay, so if I were in this case now, if I went into querying, now again, different subdirectory, right? And I had SQLite long list, right? .db. Okay, so then I'm okay. So if I said star from, okay, what is it? Long list, right? Okay, I got the output, right? But I also might go back, and now I don't want the output. What I want is what you did to get there, right? So for this first one, I want to see these commands that you've attempted. Oh, wrong one. So what you can do here is just copy, right? You don't have to do that first one. Actually, you could. Wouldn't necessarily be wrong, but in this case, for the first one, you might have something that looks like that, okay? Now, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because proof of effort is just that, right? And so if you try, and I definitely tell you on these queries, because this is where you're building that ability to solve problems. And if you just run out and get the answer, which I get that you can do, right? You're not helping your mind create that habit of breaking down problems, right? Because these 2 queries you're going to have here are not the ones you're going to have when we get to the cyber chase. They're just kind of getting you ready, okay? All right. So in this case, don't include the successful output or any output. All I want is the command you wrote, because again, this is your proof of effort. Now, by the way, going forward, and you'll probably hear me say this as well, like if I was to do like, and in this case, these are commands, so I could do, now this is actually not outputting, but it gives us at least the same idea as getting help from the duck, right? Or you might say getting help from ChatGPT, and you might even tell me here, because this is a good documentation for the prompts that you're writing. Okay, what are you writing? What are you asking it? And remember, this is a proof of effort. And I'm just going to tell you, unless you've been writing queries for a long time, nobody gets it on the first try. Nobody generally gets it on the second. Now, for simple, straightforward queries, maybe. But we're going to see more and more queries in the problem sets that do require some effort, right? And so this is my proof of work. Sorry, my proof of effort, my POE. It took me a little while to come up with that name. Okay, so first you try the first one, right? So there's my first, write a query to list all the data. Oh, in the episodes table, hint there, right? Okay, I've shown you, right, how to include these backticks, and in your commit, right, your commit message is percent, and this is query one, workflow's done, and then percent sure, like I'm this percent sure I did this right, kind of what we did before. And then do another one, right? So and then here, right, so you would then do another one. So by the way, I set up here, this would be like query one. Now again, I'm just giving you the example, like I think heading 2 here, query 1, and then you would come down here, do another heading, query 2, right? And then again, the backticks, 3. And what that does is when you go and you look at it from a markdown file, it just shows you those commands not formatted. So it's just good to learn, right? So and again, so you'll do these two, right? And then you'll come back here, right? And then I'm going to give you a solution. I'm about to walk through it on the next video to show you, right? And that's the work for this week. And then the next thing I'm going to do is go over my instruction and walk you through just understanding a little more about the cyber chase. Again, it's not a bad thing right now to go look, right, what we're going to do, because there's some good information here on CS50 site about the problems to solve that we have here. And I think we're going to do this. I think we're going to do half of them this week, and then we'll do half of them next week. And because really the idea is not so much that we have a lot of them we do, but that you give it the time that it needs. And I think I'll do something similar, because I noticed many people took advantage of the do part of them here and then part of them on Thursday night, because you know the idea is to not feel rushed so much, but is to really take your time. Okay, I hope that helps you understand. Look for the solution next.